Sanjay Leela Bhansali presents Namaste, I'm Grishma and I welcome you to the IndiCineGlitz channel. Based on the novel by legendary literature Sarat Chandra Chattopadhyay, Devdas begins in the early 19th century in the Indian province of Bengal, where a wealthy landlord and the high-born family of Narayan Mukherjee lives in the village of Tal Solapur, who held a high esteem not only in the village but also under the British rule. His joint family of wife, sons and daughter-in-law lives in a big ancestral mansion. Narayan Mukherjee and his family are proud of their high caste and high position in society. Since his youngest son Devdas used to skip his studies and play all day with his childhood friend Parvati, alias Paro, he sent him to the boarding school in London to study law. And today, after 10 years, Devdas is returning home. Devdas's mother Kaushalya is overjoyed at the news of her son's arrival and makes vigorous preparation to welcome him. Paro's mother Sumitra also elated about Devdas' homecoming and tells Kaushalya that since Devdas left, Paro has lit a lamp in his name which she has never extinguished in 10 years in a hope that he will return soon. Paro is also eagerly waiting for Devdas. And Paro is the first person Devdas goes to meet when he returns to the village, making his mother furious about it. Seeing the beautiful Paro, he falls in love with her and thus love begins to blossom between them. But Devdas's cunning sister-in-law Kumud is not happy about this. She begins to subtly poison Kaushalya's mind about how Dev and Paro have grown up now and their relationship has become more than just friendship, which will ruin the family's reputation. Due to this, Kaushalya gradually starts developing hatred towards Sumitra and Paro. Kumud and Kaushalya team up to humiliate Sumitra in front of the entire village at Kumud's baby shower function, under which Kaushalya tells Sumitra that she wants Paro to get married soon and so she has found an ideal and suitable groom for her but doesn't reveal his identity. Hearing this, an overjoyed Sumitra starts dreaming of Devdas and Paro's grand wedding and performs a wonderful song at the baby shower. But when Sumitra offers the alliance Shagun Thali, Kaushalya throws it away and warns her never to forget that she belongs to a lower caste and not to waste her time dreaming bigger than her capability and status. And according to her status, she has chosen a middle-aged man from the neighboring village as Paro's groom. Sumitra begs her not to reject this proposal and how Dev and Paro have been attached since their childhood, and she is even ready to break her relation with Paro to maintain their highborn status after the wedding. But intoxicated with pride, Kaushalya and Kumud insult Sumitra further. The self-respecting Sumitra then stops them from insulting her and warns Kaushalya that rejecting this alliance will ruin her son's life forever and she will be responsible for it, and vows that she will get Paro married in the family which will be even more elite and highborn than Kaushalya's within 7 days. And just after a few days, Paro's marriage gets fixed with the rich landlord of Manikpur village and preparation for her wedding begins. But blinded by love, Paro rejects reality and yearns only for Devdas. One late night, she goes to seek answers from Devdas, who is troubled by these events. He explains to Paro how his father and society will not accept their marriage and it will ruin their families. Paro tries to convince him to stand together and fight for their love. But Devdas, who loves Paro but doesn't have the courage to stand up against his father and society, is vague about this. Just then, Narayan Mukherjee spots them. He insults Paro and throws her out of the house. He makes it clear to Devdas that Paro is not worthy of the supreme status of their high caste family and that the union of majestic bird flying high in the sky and the little fish of the deep sea can't be possible. Objecting to this, Devdas replies that no matter how supreme a family is or how high its status is, we all have to walk on the ground and breathe the air to live, and there is a special relationship between the god living high in the sky and the humans living on the earth. And thus the quarrel between them escalates and an enraged Devdas decides to leave the house. On the other hand, Sumitra, who understands Paro's state of mind, allows Paro to leave with Devdas if he truly loves her and takes her along with him. But if he doesn't, she makes Paro promise to obey everything she says. Torn between family and love, Devdas storms out with a chariot. He is too troubled to notice Paro running after him and speeds off alone towards Kolkata city. In Kolkata, he takes refuge in the house of his friend Chunni Lal, a wealthy but lonely and an alcoholic landlord. He also writes a letter to Paro, asking her to forget everything, end their relationship, and move on with their lives. But he himself is unable to forget Paro. To ease his grief, Chunni Lal takes him to the biggest brothel in the city, where he meets Chandramukhi, the most famous and beautiful courtesan of the city. But as time goes, Devdas realizes his blunder, that he has made a big mistake by breaking Paro's heart, and sets out to meet Paro. Before leaving, he requests Chandramukhi to quit prostitution and live a good life. Chandramukhi falls in love with Devdas because of his empathetic and respectful conduct towards her. She asks Chunni Lal to bring him back once to her, to which he agrees. Devdas returns to the village on the day of Paro's wedding. He goes to see her and tells her that he will somehow convince his parents for their marriage. Paro replies that he had every opportunity and time to rectify his mistake, but today, on her wedding day, she can't humiliate her parents by eloping with him. Dev tries to justify his actions by calling them foolish and says that now he knows what to do and he will convince his parents. But Paro rejects it and says it's too late now. To which, desperate Dev tries to assert his authority over her and denies the validity of her marriage. Enraged, Paro then scolds him for turning down his commitment when she had asked for it. She tells him that from now on, she also belonged to a high-born family and will have the same status as his. Devastated by Paro's determination, Dev strikes her on the forehead, causing a wound. He calls it a symbol of their love and says it will remind her of him whenever she looks in the mirror. Paro then makes Dev attend her wedding and watch her leaving, but she doesn't forget to take her lamp along with her. As soon as Paro leaves, Dev loses his senses and sets his room on fire. Kaushalya and Narayan Mukherjee are shocked to see this. Sumitra then warns them that this is just the beginning and their son's ruination will shatter their pride soon. In Manikpur, Paro has now become a noble lady from an elite family. But after a few days, she learns that she has married a widower named Bhuvan Chaudhary, who has children of the same age as hers. Bhuvan tells Parvati that he has remarried only for the sake of his family honor and his children, and that he will always love his first wife. Hence, he is unable to accept Parvati as his wife. Devdas is now back in Kolkata, where Chandramukhi finds him lying unconscious on the street one day. She brings Dev to her home and takes care of him. But bitter and grumpy Dev, instead of being grateful, insults and mocks her. Chandramukhi then challenges Dev, who is constantly boasting about his wealth and high status, to return her the 2 nights she has spent on him, caring for him. She invites him to her dance performance and asks him to keep his word. The next day, she waits for Dev when a debauched and womanizer landlord named Kalibabu objects, saying that the one she is waiting for is a crazy, heartbroken lover who had accidentally stumbled into her door, never to return, so waiting for him is useless. Chandramukhi says that she has full faith that Dev will come, and after some time, Dev arrives, keeping his word, but is too disturbed and saddened by losing Paro. He finally turns to alcohol to deal with his grief, and this is where his alcoholism begins. On the other hand, in Manikpur, Paro is fulfilling her duties of being the lady of her house. One day, she gets introduced to Kalibabu, who happens to be the son-in-law of her husband. He tries to misbehave, seeing the young and beautiful Paro, but she puts him in his place and wants him to never forget the relationship they share. After a few months, Dev has now become a complete alcoholic. He now lives in Chandramukhi's house and is always drunk. Meanwhile, he gets the news of his father's death. He returns home when Paro is shocked to see a staggering and drunk Dev. Dev's family, now ashamed of their act, requests Paro to convince him to come to his senses and stop drinking. Paro then goes to meet Dev and asks him to quit drinking, but Dev replies that it's too late now and alcohol is his only means of survival. This leads to an argument between them, and Paro expresses her desire to take care of him. Dev then promises her that before he dies, he will come to her once and fulfill her wish. Meanwhile, Kumud is angry that Kaushalya is squandering money on charity. She hatches a plan with her husband to steal the vault's key and loot all the money. But Devdas finds out her plan and asks her to return the keys. But when stubborn Kumud refuses, he sets the room on fire and manages to retrieve the keys. When Kaushalya comes there hearing the commotion, Kumud then falsely accuses Devdas of stealing the keys and lies that he is demanding his share of the property. Angered by this, Kaushalya throws Dev out of the house and asks him never to return. On the other hand, Paro wants to perform the Mahapuja of Goddess Durga at her home, which is a major 10-day religious festival in West Bengal, India. According to traditional Hindu customs, certain elements such as water from the holy Ganga river and soil from the courtyards of brothels referred to as Punyamati are required to make the idol of goddess. Earlier, the priests had to go to the brothels and ask for Punyamati from the prostitutes and then make the idols of this clay and perform the ceremonies and rituals of the goddess. This festival is prominently celebrated in West Bengal along with all over India. Paro learns from Dharamdas, a servant of Dev, that a courtesan named Chandramukhi has bewitched him. She wants to meet Chandramukhi on the pretext of Punyamati and bring back Devdas home. So she meets her and demands to free Devdas from her clutches. In return, she offers her a handsome amount of money. But Chandramukhi tells her that she is also waiting for Dev, who hasn't come there for 6 months. She shows her Devdas's things which she has preserved to remember him in his absence and also expresses her love and devotion towards him. Seeing this, Paro is happily convinced that there is someone who cares about Dev. She invites Chandramukhi to the festival and leaves. But Kali Babu, who is waiting to avenge the insults inflicted on him by both Paro and Chandramukhi, reveals in the festival how shameful is that a lady of a noble family has brought her courtesan friend in Mahapuja and has ruined their family's reputation. But Chandramukhi retaliates and says that brothels remain dazzling and active all due to the lustful and debauched landlords like him. She asks him how can lewd men like him not spoil the reputation of the family by going to the brothels despite having wives, but a kind woman like Paro, who treats a courtesan like a human being and with respect spoils it. She then slaps him for disrespecting her. She thanks Paro for her kindness and bids farewell to her. But the immodest Kali Babu tells Bhuvan Chaudhary about Dev and Paro's premarital relationship, making Bhuvan enraged. He then forbids Paro from leaving the mansion. Drinking alcohol is now having a bad effect on Devdas's health, and one day he starts vomiting blood. The doctor informs him that even a drop of alcohol is a threat to his health. Chandramukhi takes care of him until he recovers. And finally, Dev realizes her love and dedication towards him and confesses his love for her. But now he wants to forget his past and travel alone to get new experiences. He bids farewell to Chandramukhi and lives with Dharamdas. One day, while traveling in a train, he meets Chunnilal. Chunnilal, unaware of his illness, offers him a drink. When Dev refuses, he makes him drink for the friendship's sake. Dev then starts drinking, and soon his condition starts to worsen. He is now beginning to realize that he is counting his last moments. He sees the Manikpur station has arrived and remembers the promise he made to Paro. He gets down at the station and heads for Paro's mansion. But on the way, his health deteriorates further and he finds it difficult to speak. Seeing his critical condition, the driver places him under a tree in front of Paro's mansion and calls the doctor, who confirms that he will not survive. Meanwhile, Paro begins to suspect something untoward. That morning, she sees a large crowd in front of her house. On inquiry, she learns that a person named Devdas Mukherjee of Tal Solapur village is on the verge of death. Paro is shocked and starts running like crazy to meet her Deva. An angry Bhuvan tries to stop her, but Paro is beyond her senses and only wants to see Devdas. She is about to reach him, but Bhuvan orders the gates of the mansion closed and locks her inside. And just then, Dev also dies without meeting his Paro. And the lamp lit by Paro for Devdas is finally extinguished. And with this, the movie ends. So this was our favorite movie of the day. Experience this tragic love saga trapped in the ugly norms of society at least once. Do tell us your opinion in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel. Take care.